Okay, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're basically looking under the hood of something absolutely massive. Samsung Electronics Q1 2026 Interim Business Report. You know, if you think you know Samsung, you're honestly probably only seeing the tip of the iceberg. So today, we're going to demystify what's truly driving one of the most powerful engines in the entire global tech ecosystem right now. Let's get into it.
To kick things off, I want to pose a deceptively simple question to you. What exactly does Samsung do? Like, if you went up to the average person on the street and asked them, they'd probably just point to the smartphone in their pocket, right? Maybe a Galaxy S26 or, that sleek OLED TV hanging up in their living room. And hey, they aren't wrong, but that baseline assumption paints an incredibly incomplete picture. We tend to view Samsung primarily as a consumer brand, but as their Q1 2026 report reveals in stunning detail, consumer electronics are really just the shiny exterior of a massive underlying industrial titan.
To give you a real sense of the sheer scale we're talking about here, just take a look at this number. 133,873,400,000,000. Yeah, that is Samsung's total revenue, in Korean won, for just the first quarter of 2026 alone. To put that into perspective, that's just over 3 months of business operations generating a figure so massive it literally rivals the annual GDP of several small countries. It's an absolutely staggering amount of cash for a single quarter, and it begs the obvious question: how on earth are they generating it?
What's crazier is that this growth isn't just steady or incremental. No. From Q1 2025 to Q1 2026, Samsung's revenue exploded by 69.2% year over year. Think about how hard it is to move the needle by nearly 70% when you're already operating in the hundreds of trillions of won. It's mind-blowing. It requires an operational engine that's firing on absolutely every cylinder across the globe, capitalizing on some massive shifts in the technology landscape.
So, let's move into Section 1, Beyond Phones and TVs.
To really understand that unprecedented financial leap, we have to flip the whole consumer narrative completely on its head. The DX division, which stands for Device Experience, so that's all those TVs, washing machines, smartphones, and network systems we all know, well, that accounts for about 39.3% of their revenue. But the real heavyweight here, that's the DS division, or Device Solutions, coming in at a massive 61%. So Samsung's component business actually completely dwarfs its world-famous consumer products business.
Grounding this in the raw corporate data, the DX division pulled in roughly 52.6 trillion won. Huge, right? But then look at the DS division. It generated an astonishing 81.7 trillion won all by itself. This isn't just a slight lead, it's a dominant structural advantage. The very components that power the tech industry are the true lifeblood of Samsung's entire financial empire.
Which brings us to Section 2, the real moneymaker.
So what exactly is the DS division doing to print over 81 trillion won? Put simply, they are the absolute component powerhouse of the digital age. They manufacture DRAM, which is essentially a computer's short-term memory, NAND flash for long-term storage, and mobile APs, the main brains of your smartphone. Whenever you hear people buzzing about AI, cloud computing, massive data centers, or those next-generation smartphones, just remember that literally none of it works without the underlying hardware. The DS division isn't building the final product, they're building the memory and the brains that power the entire tech industry's wildest ambitions. Now, the absolutely crucial factor driving this is the average selling price, or ASP. Check this out. While the price of TVs actually dipped by 5%, and smartphones grew a respectable 23%, the average selling price for memory skyrocketed by an unbelievable 146%. This right here, this is the smoking gun for their massive 69% overall revenue surge. The market's insatiable appetite for advanced computing, mostly driven by AI and data centers, created this massive pricing surge for components. And Samsung, they were perfectly positioned to catch that windfall.
Let's look at how they do it in Section 3, Global Scale and Production.
You see, having the right product at the right price is one thing, but actually physically producing it at a scale that satisfies global demand, that is an entirely different beast. So prepare yourselves for another massive number. 658,532,000,000. That's the total memory output produced by Samsung in Q1 2026 alone. Imagine producing the memory chips for hundreds of millions of high-end computers in just 3 months. It requires a level of manufacturing precision and sheer scale that's almost impossible to even wrap your head around.
And how do they actually achieve that output? Well, by literally never stopping. The report notes that both the DS division and the display panel division operate on 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. They logged 90 continuous operating days in Q1 with 100% utilization rate. Seriously, this means their massive fabrication plants in places like Hyeongsang and Pyeongtaek are in a state of relentless perpetual motion. Every second of every single day, chips are being baked, processed, and packaged to feed the world's technological demands.
Which naturally leads us to Section 4, supplying the competition.
So who exactly is buying up this endless sea of memory and processors? Well, the answer reveals the ultimate business irony. Alphabet, Amazon, Apple. Together with a couple of others, these top 5 customers account for 23% of Samsung's total sales. Let that sink in for a second. Samsung's biggest customers are actually its fiercest consumer market rivals. Every time Apple sells an iPhone or Amazon spins up a massive new server farm, Samsung's DS division is likely ringing the register. They've engineered this brilliant reality where even if they lose a smartphone sale to a competitor, they still win because they're supplying the components inside that competitor's device.
And hey, they aren't just supplying traditional tech giants either. They've secured a jaw-dropping 16.5 trillion won foundry manufacturing deal with Tesla, and that runs all the way through December 31st, 2033. This perfectly highlights just how deeply embedded Samsung is in the future of transport and autonomous driving. They're basically locking in massive, decade-long revenue streams by becoming the foundational manufacturer for the automotive industry's most ambitious tech players.
Next up, Section 5, funding the future.
So how does a company maintain this kind of absolute dominance? Well, by spending a massive 11.3 trillion KRW on R&D in a single quarter. And they don't just, throw money at the wall to see what sticks. No, they utilize a highly structured 3-tier approach. Step 1 is the business unit R&D, which focuses on market-ready tech launching in the next 1 to 2 years. Step 2 involves their research institutes, looking further over the horizon with a 3 to 5-year outlook. And Step 3 is SAINT, their comprehensive research institute that's basically planting the core technology seeds for future growth. They are systematically, step-by-step, inventing the future long before anyone else gets there.
And you can see the immediate fruits of all that structured labor. Just in this one quarter, their R&D wins included the mass production of HBM4 memory, which is that high-speed fuel absolutely critical for next-gen AI processing. They released the Exynos Modem 5410, integrating satellite communication tech, and the Exynos 1680, a platform dedicated entirely to on-device AI experiences. They aren't just reacting to the market, they are literally manufacturing the foundational building blocks for the AI and mobile revolutions.
Now, all of this R&D spending, it results in an absolute fortress of global intellectual property. Samsung holds nearly 289,000 patents worldwide. But look at where they're concentrated. The highest number, over 107,000 patents, are held in the US, followed by Korea and Europe. They strategically concentrate their IP in the US market specifically to manage conflicts and protect their innovations in the single most litigious and competitive tech market on Earth.
Their core long-term strategy is perfectly summed up in their own words. The company is focusing on securing early patents in new technologies ahead of others, in order to protect opportunities and have the freedom to operate. Basically, they intend to dominate the future not just by having the best manufacturing, but by legally owning the foundational concepts of tomorrow's technology before their competitors even arrive at the drafting table.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Next time you pick up a piece of modern technology, whether it's the phone in your hand, the AI server crunching your data, or the electric car driving you to work, the real question you should be asking yourself isn't just who designed the logo on the outside. The real question is, how much of what is actually making it work on the inside is Samsung? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you leave looking at the tech world just a little bit differently today.